Namaste, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Cārvāka podcast. If it's morning time in India, so good morning to people in India. All right, tons of stuff to discuss. I have Josh from Elevate podcast today. Josh, how are you doing, my brother?
Doing good, man. Can't complain. Life's good. I think when I came on here, I think we're at a point of a year since we met, and I came on the show initially, and then you came onto mine, and I was like, "Dang, here we go! Lots of fun over here."
Yeah, it's been a fun ride the last 1 year, and we met each other when Trudeau was the prime minister. Now Carney is the prime minister.
Wild. It's crazy what 1 year can do, can it?
Yeah, and I mean, to me, it's insane. Maybe we can start here that how much of a top-down system Canada tends to have, that the prime minister is so powerful that just the change of the prime minister leads to so many variations in Canadian policy making. Like, this is the same Liberal government that suddenly is doing things that Trudeau would never have done. So, like, how do you look at it? Like, why is a Canadian electing a member of parliament when it's just the prime minister that has all the say?
That's a great question. I think we're actually starting to learn that specifically through Mark Carney, because he has extended some things where people are like, oh, I thought you had to vote on that. I thought that had to come through the House. You can just make that decision. Oh, even as Canadians, we're kind of learning more about a better system because the Liberals keep exposing every loophole that we currently have. So I think that is probably one of the first things I've learned. I remember I was talking to a friend of mine who had recently immigrated. I think it was from Nigeria at the time. This was a couple of years ago. And he said, I don't really care too much about the prime minister here. I come from a country that has real problems. I'm okay with the problems that are here. And, the provinces will always keep the prime minister in check. That's kind of how I believe. And I was like, I guess. I don't know if I totally, I believe it to a degree because the provinces do hold a lot of power. But then, when Mark Carney comes in and says, I'm just going to zero the carbon tax, you're like, oh, okay. We're spending billions that are now moving like north more of our deficit. Oh, when did we vote on? No, we didn't vote on that. Oh, we're just spending that money now. Okay. So these are the things that are kind of coming up and people are slowly starting to learn. And it is fascinating to see the way Mark Carney is trying to push, especially when it comes to his conflicts of interest and how he's just able to just govern, even though he's conflicted at every decision he makes, but he's just allowed to because of how our laws are set up.
So I want to talk about the automobile plant in Brampton, because that's a huge story. 3,000 jobs are at stake. But I want to talk about something else before that, and that is this bail law that Carney has basically made an announcement. In fact, you tweeted about it, and this is your own tweet that I'm bringing it up. So, bail reform bill targeting violent repeat offenders coming next week. New legislation will target those accused of serious crimes such as violent auto thefts, breaking and entering, human trafficking, and violent assaults. But the natural question that somebody should ask is, like a person like me, asked this was not the case before?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, our systems have gone very soft in terms of our bail laws here. A same person can kind of just keep doing the same thing and get out on bail and do it again. We don't really have tight bail laws here. And quite frankly, these are kind of how our laws have always been. The problem is we now have our high trust society is now becoming a low trust society. And these types of laws are now being exposed because they were brought in good faith, and now they're being abused in bad faith because, well, we've lost complete control of our country in so many ways. So, we've heard Poilievre, the Conservatives, obviously making some very loud noise on this specific issue. They even introduced their own bill a couple weeks back, the Jail Not Bail bill. And the Liberals voted against it, and that was a whole thing. And the conversation on the left-hand side of the aisle was, it's just, you guys, it's an ill thought out bill. And what the reality was, we all knew, it was, no, the Liberals have their own bill and they didn't want to give the Conservatives a win. And now here we are. They will introduce this in the coming weeks, and we'll see exactly how liberalized it all is. They make it sound real good right now. However, I'm so curious of what they're going to try and shoehorn into this bill.
Yeah, but it also tells me that Again, the point that you and I were discussing, that god damn, the prime minister is very powerful in Canada.
Mm.
Like, Trudeau was stopping all of this.
Yeah.
I remember Pierre Poilievre's speech. I think it was last year, and correct me if I'm wrong, but uh, Trudeau was like going around, and Poilievre was saying that there was a time in Vancouver that more than 90% or 94% of the crimes were committed by just, like a few people. They just kept on getting bail, kept on committing crime. And the same situation happens in every single city of Canada. Like, you can go to Surrey, you can go to Brampton, you can go to Kelowna, you can go anywhere you want to go. Winnipeg, it's basically a tiny number. If we cut across Canada, it would be a few thousand people that keep committing the same crime, keep getting out on bail. And the funny thing is, because I tend to follow the Surrey Brampton beat a lot, there are people, like, recently there was a news segment in India of this guy, and I'll put it up. You're gonna bang your head on the wall when you read this news segment, and you're gonna be like, what are we doing in this country? So this was reported in Indian media, did not get reported in any Canadian newspaper, for the record. Nobody in Canada reported this. So this was basically a guy was arrested by Punjab police in a bust which was an illegal weapon smuggling module. So his name was Amarbeet Singh of Amritsar. He had recently returned from Canada. He came from Canada. He got the weapons in Canada.
Wild.
Order was, he was basically working with the Pakistanis smugglers, and he comes to India. Indian cops catch him, and I can guarantee you he's not getting bail in India. He's not gonna get bail. He's
Right.
in. That's it. Now that is a whole new problem, and this is not, I am no lover of no bail. Also, like in India, sometimes if the state wants you in, oh, you're in. You're never coming out. that
Mm.
that also is an extreme that I don't support. But the point is, in Canada, I can guarantee you this guy would have been out in 24 hours.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and we're starting to see that more and more. And I was actually interviewing the mayor of Port Coquitlam, BC, a handful of weeks ago, Mayor Brad West. And he's been very, very vocal on this very issue in terms of our laws in this country. And he was very famous for actually tweeting this out, saying that we are not going to get anywhere serious as a country unless we take care of these weak ass crime, our justice system, and our legal system, because people keep getting out. Like he, talked about a story that happened to him where a guy was threatening with a weapon to kill him and his family. And it took him weeks and weeks to fight to make sure that he got locked up and stayed locked up. And that was a mayor. So how do you feel about, so if that's a political official, what happens to the regular person who's trying to fight for this stuff? That's just how it's going. And that is really the frustration at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I fail to understand what we are trying to do. Like, so you and I know you had covered this on your podcast too, the Caps Cafe incident. Today, the third time they shot at the Caps Cafe in Surrey.
That's
Third
crazy.
time. And listen to this shit, okay? They had a dummy police vehicle outside.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm just gonna play the video is reported by Samir Kaushal, a Canadian journalist, but the video is in Hindi. So I'm not gonna play the text.
Samir Kaushal. एक बार फिर से
I'm
live
not gonna play the audio because you'll not understand it, but I'll play the video for you. And look at the irony over here. So he's gonna show this. Look at that. That's a dummy police vehicle, by the way. That was there to basically send a message to the people who shot at that. Listen, we're watching. And behind Samir, what you see is I'll forward this. Wait, I'll forward this and show you. It's absolutely hilarious. You see the car behind over here. This is a private security that they had hired.
Oh, wow.
The cafe. All right. Yeah. So you have a dummy cop car and a private security. Despite that, these people just shoot at it and go out.
Gee.
Like, come on. Like, somebody needs to be held accountable, right? Somebody needs to be, some heads need to roll, right? They never. And And guess who's reporting? Again, a Canadian of Indian origin the poor guy's at there 6 o'clock in the morning reporting the whole damn thing.
Yep.
And he's like, nobody answers. And I called Samir and I asked him, so Samir, what's the latest update? Zlich. Nothing.
So I guess this goes back to some questions I now have. Because you're more tapped into this community than I am. What is happening currently since this is the focus and the people who are committing the crimes know this at this point? What is this doing to the Khalistani groups out west right now? Are they just emboldened and just allowed to do whatever they want? Is that what's happening? Or, what's going on?
Not in America. In America, since the Trump administration has come in, there has been a crackdown and a real serious crackdown. Listen, to be very honest, there is a slight crackdown in Canada by Canadian standards.
Yeah.
By Canadian standards. So I'll give you an example. So we had Anita Anand, the foreign minister, whether we like it or not, she was visiting India, and we have to talk about it. Listen, it's our foreign minister going to India. We have to talk about it, right? We have to talk about our foreign minister going to India and discussing these things. And the joint statement was very interesting. This is the first time India and Canada did a joint statement, and I read it. Like, I read the whole one-page document, and transnational repression was not mentioned anywhere.
Of course not.
It was not mentioned anywhere. This is the first time, because under Trudeau, every time this, ooga booga of transnational repression was always mentioned. And I was like, hang on, listen, I'm a journalist, right? My job is to talk to people inside the government. I may not have many sources inside the Canadian government. I have a lot of sources in the Indian side, right? Because I'm known in India. So I called a few of my sources in the Indian government. And I was like, hang on, how did the Canadians agree to no transnational repression? He's like, listen, they're desperate. They need to trade. So we're like, we're not talking about this. You want to trade? We'll trade. All this transnational repression, ooga booga, this needs to stop. You want to deal with the Khalistani? See, the Canadians had one condition, which I think the Indians did the right thing, where they honored. So the government of Canada, I'm giving you all the off the record chat here.
Please.
Okay. The Canadians were like, listen, don't mention Khalistan. We'll not mention transnational repression. And let's just call a truce and let's just talk trade. Listen, honestly, I'm someone who's kind of in between both worlds. I think it's a fair deal. I think if India lays off the Khalistan official bit, like on paper, although off the record, they will always push. And Canadians off the record will always push about the transnational bullshit. While on the record, none of it is mentioned. Let's talk trade, man. We can do a lot more business.
That's so fascinating. So they really just kind of did a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Like, you don't talk about this, we'll not talk about that, and let's get a deal done. That is really interesting. Because that's all I saw was how much India was doubling and tripling down on the Khalistani issue and refused to even have a conversation unless it was dealt with. And now it's just like, so do you feel like, because we know here, you follow Canadian politics, we're super desperate for a deal up here. Is India, like, where's India at when it comes to this stuff? Like, how are they feeling in terms of trade on their end? Are they feeling some type of desperation, or are they just kind of trying to see what
I say this with full responsibility. I have spoken to multiple offices in India. So what is called the foreign ministry over here is called the Ministry of External Affairs there. But the trade deal is not under the Ministry of External Affairs. The trade deal comes under what would be called the Commerce Ministry in India. And I tried to get in touch with the Commerce Ministry for official comments. Nobody gives official comments. But off the record, what I can divulge publicly is that 80% of our trade deal was discussed during Trudeau's time. 80% of the matters are already dealt with. We are stuck at the 20%. A giant chunk of the 20% is related to artificial intelligence and critical minerals. And things are looking good. I can tell you that with a little bit of confidence. The Indians are very interested now. And listen, we are under a lot of trouble here because of, Donald Trump doing what he's doing. And we can talk about what has happened with this Jeep Compass plant in Brampton. I just think it's ridiculous. Like, with the tariffs, our car industry in Canada, essentially, I was looking at the numbers, is non-competitive. We're done. We're destroyed. Our industry is done.
Yep.
And we need to diversify yesterday. All right.
Oh man, you sound like the CBC now. Wow.
We have to diversify. I don't know Listen, even if Pierre was in power, he would have diversified. Like, for all the fluff and bluster, when the rubber meets the road, you have to get real. And I'm, you know what, in a way I want to appreciate Pierre here. He's not being a kind of a dick to Carney, because even he understands the country comes before everything else, right?
Right.
Because the country is what holds us together.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that was one thing that stuck out to me when I interviewed Pierre a couple months back in August. And I asked that issue of like, is there going to come a point where you feel like you have to get on the ground too and like kind of help the effort moving forward? And that was what he said. He said, in the House of Commons, everything's fair game. I will 100% criticize them for things that need to be worth being criticized. However, when it comes to on the global level, on the global stage, he will have nothing but my support, because I do not want it to come across as if we're a divided nation. And that's something I definitely respected coming from him, even though there's people on the left that would be like, that's wrong. This guy is such a loser. He keeps saying all the terrible things. Did you hear what he said about DEI the other day? So like, there's just a lot of that happening, but I'm curious. I want to hear more of your perspective, that you said in your words that he isn't acting like a dick towards Carney. A lot of people would disagree with that. What are you seeing?
No, see, what is he supposed to say? Is he supposed to tell Carney that Carney was right on the immigration bit? Well, Carney was not absolutely right on the immigration bit. And with Pierre pushing him, Carney has made those changes, and they're looking good. Uh, on the bail bill, I think, him raising the bill before Carney was just a little bit of politics, if you ask me. He wanted to show, I mean, let's get real. I think the conservatives knew the liberals were coming out with a bill, so they wanted to beat the liberals to the bill also. It's just internal politics, right? These guys know each other, right? Everybody leaks shit to each other. But what I have appreciated is the way Carney has dealt with Trump. Every time Carney, listen, I may not vote liberal if I had the opportunity, but I did not like the way my prime minister got insulted by Trump recently. When he said, at least I did not call you governor. Like, this is how I come from. Like, listen, I am an old school guy who believes in the idea of a nation state.
Yeah.
I get hurt when these things are said to my prime minister.
Interesting.
Mark Carney is my prime minister. I may not vote for him, but he's my prime minister.
Right.
And to me, these things matter. And the way Pierre kind of has dealt with the Trump issue, I think Pierre needs to be given credit there.
Okay. I think that's saying something. I see where you're coming from. That's the only reason I asked, because I do agree. I think he's definitely I've been seeing Pierre doubling down a lot more and trying to push, and he's just fulfilling his promises he made post-election. He says, okay, we may not have won, but we're going to push our ideas forward to make the liberals make a decision, so we can at least try to do something to make this country better. And so that is cool that you're seeing that. And I do find it very interesting. I think it's a cultural thing where even the conversation that Trump made, at least I didn't call you governor. I just was like, whatever. I kind of shrugged that off. Interesting to kind of hear that you to some degree took that personally on Carney's behalf, is fascinating. And I'm kind of more from the perspective of, I hated how the election went in terms of, I don't really care about the result. I hated all the rhetoric in it. It was one of the weirdest elections I've ever seen in my life. And the lying of like, we're going to show them who's boss. We're going to counter tariff them. We're going to, Trump's trying to break us and own us. Boom, 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 boom. And then when Polyev jumped on the bandwagon of like, we're going to counter tariff them, I was like, what do we do? Like, why is everyone talking about this right now? This is insane. Am I out to lunch? I know I'm not an economist, but the people I have talked to who do this for a living saying counter tariffs are a bad idea. So I felt like I was living in the twilight zone when all that was being discussed. And so now all that's kind of transpired and we've moved on, and we're seeing Mark Carney all of a sudden not playing big boy on campus anymore. And now he's trying to play nice with Trump. Don't get me wrong. I'm on the record before the election saying that's how you need to deal with Trump. But for Carney to get up there and saying, I'm going to strong arm him and then, essentially have to placate to him, has just been annoying to watch.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, but do you think Carney is actually kind of conservative light?
Yes and no. He's, he comes from he's worked in public life, has also worked in the private sector. He just cares. Like he's not here for us. Like he doesn't care about Canada. He will do what he has to do to kind of like keep the machine going. But he's here for one thing only, and that's to enrich him and his assets. I've talked to people who have connections to Mark Carney, and that is really kind of what the vibe they get with him when they talk to him personally, one-on-one, is that he's looking to get to that next level of wealth. And this is how he's going to do it, is through being a prime minister and what's the word I'm looking for? And incentivizing and pushing policy that's going to enrich those assets. Like it is crazy that he had, I have this, I put everything on a blind trust. I know everything that's in there. And I know to be able to enrich those assets, but trust me, it's a blind trust. So somebody else, like the games that are being played, it's very clear. He's only here to make money. And so, yes, in essence, that is conservative light, because that's, he's essentially trying to, monopolize and make the economy work for him. And that is, going after money is typically a conservative value to some degree. Did a terrible job explaining that. But he has to play ball with the Liberal Party. So he's just doing what he's got to do to kind of keep things going. He's going to go, I agree with these left-wing values, and we're going to be progressive this and progressive that, and we're going to be the most compassionate people. And he'll say what he needs to say, but the whole goal is to enrich himself. That's all this is at the end of the day.
What did you make of him sending Chrystia Freeland to Ukraine?
Oh my gosh. I don't want to see you again. That's what that was.
Yeah, that was cold. That was cold.
I do find that interesting though, right? Because he is the godfather of her son. They are very close. They've been close for a long time. And so I'm curious what that personal relationship is like now, because that was a weird move from a professional standpoint, where it's like, I don't want you in cabinet anymore. I want you out of my face, out of my life. Here, go retire in Ukraine, essentially, is what it felt like. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if he did it as a favor because she didn't want to be in politics anymore. Because like during the Trudeau era, like Trudeau used her as a human shield a lot in politics. She got beaten around a lot. So I'm curious if she's just tired of it and was like, hey, Carney, can you do me a favor? Or was it the opposite, where like Carney was just annoyed with her and wanted to send her off? So.
Yeah. Now let's talk about this. Like, how the hell can the government of Canada do something as insane? I'm not saying Carney did it, but so Stellantis received up to 15 billion in taxpayer subsidies, and they had to give no assurances of job retention in Canada. And now they're investing 13 billion in Illinois. Now tell me, how does this make any sense to a Canadian? How?
It doesn't make sense to a Canadian, but it makes sense from a political perspective. Hear me out. What this government has done since the Trudeau days, 2015, is they're always chasing headlines. How do I always stay in the head in the headlines? And so, hey, we'll get this deal done. We're investing all this money into this into this factory, and into keeping jobs here. And it's always like they've been headline chasing their whole time in governance, and this was nothing different. So there's like, hey, whatever we can do that's going to make it look good, we're just going to do it. There was not a whole lot of forethought with this government, especially under Trudeau. That's why you're seeing what we're seeing. No assurances, no nothing. Just like, all right, whatever we can do to get this pushed, so I can go to CBC and push this in the headlines. That's all this is. And I think that's what now we're, paying the piper for those decisions, because it looks weird. I said it on my show, was there is and we are seeing the difference between a subsidized socialist nation versus a nation built on the economy, built on making oh my gosh, I'm losing my words tonight. It's way too late here. You know what I'm saying here. Oh my gosh. Capitalism. That's the word I'm looking for. A socialist society versus a capitalist society that's more of a capitalist society more than ours. So there is no amount of subsidy that's going to save you from that situation. That's what we witnessed. Hey, here's 15 billion. We'll take care. Make sure you keep the jobs here. Please keep the jobs here. And then Trump's like, well, I'm going to save you from tariffs if you come here now. And they're like, okay, not only are we going to come, we're also going to invest 13 billion of our own money. Tale of two stories. Very wild.
Yeah, it's terrible. I just feel terrible for the auto workers. And I think the auto industry is done now. If Trump tariffs are here to stay, auto industry in Canada cannot survive, like from Windsor. So
right.
kind of follow the auto industry a lot. And, Doug Ford can say what he wants to say. Oh, we're going to threaten legal action, blah, 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 blah. Nothing's going to change. What is going is going. We're actually screwed in this. And that's why, we need to reform yesterday. And I just don't understand, like, why are the pipelines not being built at the speed that they should be? Why is Quebec being a pain in the ass? And why can't we deal with Quebec? Like, what the hell? Or why do we have to be, every time we need consent from every single tiny little First Nation group, which has 2 members in it? Like, these questions need to be asked. And why is it like I can ask these questions and nobody else is asking them?
Well, I'll ask you this question. There is one pipeline that is starting to get a lot more traction. Which one is it there, Kushal?
The one going to America?
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
I have no clue.
I don't know. It might have something to do with Carney being 91% invested to America and their assets down there. And the fact that if Canada does well, it's not good for America, especially when it comes to oil pipelines. And we see even in his portfolio, he's invested in pipelines all over the world. Canada, but he's not invested in any pipelines in Canada. So if Canada gets competitive in pipelines, that's not good for his assets. So that's what my working theory is that anything that kind of cycles through to his assets down in the States or any elsewhere in the world, he's all in. But man, that pipeline going out to Prince Rupert, that's where it is. Out in BC, coast of BC. That's the one he wants. That's the one he doesn't want to have happen. That's why you're seeing a lot of roadblocks, even though there's a lot of push on that right now. He's not, as I said, he's not here for Canada. He's here for himself. And the decisions that just seem like it makes sense to do, they're not happening. You have to follow the money.
Yeah, you know what the funny thing is, like, India's increased its oil purchases from Canada, but it's all via America. So because Canada does not have that refining capacity to supply to India, so every single bit goes to America. America refines that oil. Canadian oil goes to America, and then it comes to India.
Yep, that's a story as old as time with almost every nation that who buy our oil. It's been mind-boggling since I was 6 years old having these conversations with my parents, which I know it sounds crazy, but we did. That we don't refine our own oil here in Canada or at least at a level that is hugely sustainable for our country is insane. It's insane. We just pump out the oil, give it to America. America refines it and sells it back to us. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. But here we are. And then we wonder why, we're so reliant on America. Well, this is the reason. And that's why it really bums me out seeing what's happening to the auto sector here. It is something that is close to my heart because my grandmother grew up, she worked in the Chrysler factory her whole life. And I can just imagine the people that are working there now just poof, gone. 3,000 jobs, man. That's no joke. And the rest of our auto sector is going to continue to suffer because we have not been smart. And it goes back to what you've said at the beginning of this podcast, is we should have diversified yesterday. And the fact that it's not moving quickly enough just makes you ask questions of who's in it for what.
Yeah, it is disgusting. And it pisses me off that innocent people suffer while in the process. Politicians just twiddle their thumbs because politicians are not. It's like Justin, in 10 years of him virtually destroying the economy, destroying the society, a well-functioning immigration system, he destroys everything. And now he's partying with Katy Perry.
Yeah.
Like, I got no issues of him having, an affair with her. But my problem is that, and especially people don't realize like that 3-year period of Justin and Jagmeet.
Yeah.
That just screwed us over. Like, how to undo a perfectly working immigration system? Like, how is every criminal coming into Canada? How the hell did we achieve that? Look, I'm going to play this video. Dude, I laughed so hard. I should not be laughing, but I can't help but laugh. People think only criminals from Punjab are coming to Canada. No, sir. We are open for the whole world. And listen to this segment. I just lost my mind when I heard this segment. Just listen to this.
In August 2023, 3 men tried to do a dine and dash at an Owen Sound restaurant. They ended up in a fight killing the owner. They disappeared without a trace until they were finally placed under arrest in Scotland. For more than 2 years, police said absolutely nothing about this case. We were able to track down social media profiles for the 3 accused, and for the first time, put faces to the names. This is how we did it. On August 17th, 2023, 3 men went to a restaurant called the Curry House in downtown Owen Sound. They ran up a $150 bill and then they tried to dine and dash. When the owner, Sharif Rahman, tried to stop them, someone threw a punch. It ended up killing him. What's been really odd about this story is how little information authorities have shared with the public or the press. In Canada, when someone is charged with a crime, that information is supposed to be public. It wasn't in this case. It was under seal. We went to court to try and obtain it and failed. But we realized that the same information was in a court in Scotland. We went there and we applied to get access to the file. Initially, they turned us down, but eventually they let us have a look at it. We had addresses and names and dates of birth. That helped us find some social media profiles that we thought might be for these men. We looked for details and photos that we could match to details from Google Earth images of where they lived and also places where they had traveled. Then we traced the relationships, friends and family. We compared that to footage we'd shot of supporters of these men outside of the courtroom. All of this helped us to establish that we had the right guys. So here's who these guys are. They come from Manchester. It's a father and a son and an uncle. Police say that the father and son entered Canada on real passports but with fake names, working illegally, running some sort of paving business for cash only across southern Ontario. Here's what we also found in the files. Police allege it was the son that threw the punch that killed Sharif Rahman. Then they say his uncle told him to run. He did. And then the uncle went to get the car, picked him up, and drove him to Collingwood, about an hour away. That's why he's been charged as accessory after the fact. The father is charged for allegedly buying a plane ticket to help the son escape Canada the next day.
Dude, like, only in Canada can we do this. So let me share a few facts. So we have a boatloads of criminals, because the genius that Justin Trudeau was that international students don't need police clearance certificates. So guess what the gangsters did? The Punjab gangsters came to Canada as students. Why do you think all these people end up being students? Because a person like me who had to migrate normally, like a normal human being, I had to go to the cops. The cops had to look up my record in Mumbai and they had to give a police clearance certificate that this guy is not a criminal. And that's why I behave normally. These guys, all these criminals that snuck in the route. So now it's not just the people from Punjab. Then Sheikh Hasina, the former Prime Minister of Bangladesh, her father, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, his killer lives in Toronto. Not now. For 25 years.
Gee.
Dude, it's insane. Everybody's here.
Dude, I talk about this all the time, and I know you're close to Daniel Boardman, and I know he's very tight on this as well. But it is crazy the amount of extremist groups we have just operating in Canada, just willy-nilly, on top of all the criminals we've allowed to come in, period. It's just one huge gong show up here. It's psychotic when you think about it, and the fact that we've allowed it to happen, and the fact that I guess I actually want to bring this up for you, because you may have seen the clip of Polyev saying the RCMP's investigation on SNC-Lavalin with Trudeau was disgusting, and lacked actual going through the details on that one, and that Trudeau should be brought up on charges, and that really got people going up here. What are your thoughts on Polyev making those statements?
I don't know about these charges. Trudeau should be charged for the murder, along with Jagmeet Singh, of international students. He is guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, now the number is 13. 13 girls that I have helped go back to India in the last 3 years of me living here. 13 girls.
Like, are they in danger of trafficking? Is that what's going on?
Sexually trafficked. So
yeah.
I was talking to a few women's groups in and around GTA. Just South Asians, okay? Just South Asians. Specifically Indian origin people. 4,000 is the number of girls being sexually trafficked. Just in GTA, my friend.
Gee.
This, if Trudeau deserves to go to jail, it is for running the largest human trafficking slavery scam in the history of this country. That's what Trudeau needs to, and Jagmeet needs to be held accountable for that. And all these people who pretend to oh, what happened? I used to call everyone. You were one of the few people who used to listen to me when I used to share information with you.
Mm-hmm.
You think I didn't call people in the Conservative Party or the Liberal Party or other content creators? I called everyone.
Yeah.
I called everyone out. What do I get, man? It's just, I am a famous Indian. I have access to these things. I just share information. I don't share anything that cannot be verified.
Mm-hmm.
And despite that, other than you and a few here or there, nobody spoke about it. They just don't talk about it. And it's not just the Indian people that were suffering. I know Nigerians who were suffering. I know Syrians who were suffering. Like, look at this case. Like, this guy came from Scotland and he knew if I come to Canada, nothing's going to happen. That's like a safe haven for me. And nobody gives a shit about it. Like, when I read this news, I just couldn't help but laugh. And you know what the irony of it all is? When that motion M44 was passed, it was pushed by Randeep in the Liberal Party.
Yep.
Guess who the shadow immigration minister was? Jasraj Hallan.
Oh, gosh. Oh, interesting. Okay.
So these are not coincidences. Like, I know what was happening. And I would always tell people, I was like, what are we doing? Why is this happening? And all of this was public knowledge. All of this was public knowledge. $148 million was spent by Canada from 2019 to 2022-23. Going to India, having these giant ass camps where it was so obvious, man. The message was, you're coming to Canada for PR. They were not coming to get educated. It was a clear wink, wink, nudge, nudge attraction for Indian students. They wanted to see. What they realized was, before that, all the Indians would go to America. And here, what was the hook for Canada for Indians, right? They wanted that money.
Yeah.
The hook for the Indians was, hey, you struggle for PR in America, because that's true. You don't get PR in America. You have to really grind for like 10, 15 years and you're on H-1B. It's a struggle. So what the Canadians did was, we will give you PR.
Mm-hmm.
And then this entire diploma mill fiasco happened. And boy, I'm not saying Indians did not exploit Indians. Indian origin Canadians also exploited. But to pretend that the Canadians only it's a brown on brown issue. No, sorry, sir. Like, everybody was in this gravy train. Every freaking person was in this gravy train. And the result is absolute carnage, man. Absolute carnage. And today, imagine, this is the current foreign minister of India. Listen to what he says.
Number of gangland people, number of people with organized crime links from Punjab have been made welcome in Canada. We have been telling Canada, saying, look, these are wanted criminals from India. You have given them visas. They have come, many of them, in false documentation. And yet you allow them to live there. If you decide to import for political purposes people with very dubious, actually very negative background, there will be issues. They have, in some cases, created problems in their own country. Number of gangland people, number of people.
Tell me, here's a foreign minister of India.
Yeah.
Sitting in India, telling Canada doesn't listen to us. There are 50 outstanding extradition requests from India, out of which half of them are members of the Lawrence Bishnoi gang.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're like, please send the Lawrence Bishnoi gang members back. They are going around shooting people in Canada. India's like, please send them back. Canada's like, no, we will not send them back.
Yeah. Well, this is the funny thing, because I was actually talking to some people, born Canadians here, and I was referring to the fact that Anita Anand had gone down to India to start these bilateral conversations, and the first thing that came off the tongues of a lot of these people was, oh, they're making a deal to send 10 more million Indians to Canada, and it's really interesting how I had to kind of shift that conversation. I was like, actually, India's asking us to extradite people back to India, and we refuse to do it. And the shock on their face is like, huh? What? I was like, I know it's like semi-shocking because we know what this government does. However, yeah, India's like, please send these people back. We know they're causing trouble up there. We want to put them on trial, and we want to jail them here. Please send them back. And Canada, as you said, is like, we kind of like our extremists. We like the people that cause crime up here, man. It's a good time. So it's crazy.
And you know what the insanity in all of this is? That the average Indian look, I'm not making this shit up, right? Stats Canada is Stats Canada. We have the figures till 2023. The Indian community is literally the bottom tier of committing crimes in Canada, even after all this mess.
That's wild, isn't it?
After all this, they basically were doing nothing. And now suddenly you have imported these lunatics from, some corner of Punjab. And you know what the best part is? Like, what are the dinner conversations amongst us living here? Who are these lunatics? We don't know them. Nobody knows them. And we're confused. Like, we're like, send them back to India. And nobody seems to listen to anyone here. And we're like, huh? And look at the coverage after Anita goes to it. Because she didn't mention transnational repression or anything, look at the coverage. Look at the coverage.
That's
this
crazy.
is WS. Like, what is this? They're attacking Anita. Attacking Anita for what? What is Anita supposed to do? Listen, anybody go through my timeline or X. I have only criticized Anita. I have done nothing else. And all these Khalistani outlets are attacking Anita. Like, spewing absolute bile and hatred against her.
And they all doing it under the name of Sikhs as well.
Yeah, and they give a bad name. Like, look at this. Like, seriously, it's so frustrating, man. The high commissioners are back, right? The Indian high commissioner is back. Everybody's back. And this is the kind of shit we have to deal with. Khalistan Freedom Rally, 18th October 2025, Saturday, outside, the Indian Embassy. And is this the message we want to send, man, as Canadians? That's like a target on the Indian high commissioner.
That's
like, what are we doing?
People are insane. Holy jumping. That's psychotic. Yeah, it is dumbfounding to me that we just let this stuff happen. And it is fascinating. Because I remember, I did like an episode on this like a month or so ago about the Khalistani issue in Alberta and how they showed up. It was back during the G7 summit, whatever it was. And and they all showed up in Alberta with like targets on Modi's face and all these posters and all their yellow flags. I remember doing that episode on that. And all my Canadian viewers were just like, what the heck is even this? I never heard of these guys. And this is what they're doing. I was like, dude, they've been under the radar for a long time, unfortunately, but they're no joke, man. Like, these guys are serious trouble.
Dude, just imagine. This is, Six for Justice writing, Shaheed, martyr, Talvinder Singh Parmar. Talvinder Singh Parmar is the guy who did the Air India bombing.
Yeah.
This guy, Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, came on CBC and said, I am working with the Prime Minister's office when Justin Trudeau was the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
And you expect India to trade with you?
Yeah. It's such a joke, man. I do come back to a statement I made. I'm curious if you know this because you have more of an insight, at least on the Indian side of things. Do you really think Carney has any idea this is what's going on? Because I don't think he does.
No, I think he does. And this is the interesting bit. And this is why whatever movement has happened is because Carney is actually... See, the Khalistanis had started infiltrating the Canadian system since the 1980s. Mm-hmm. They did it very subtly. I think kudos to Prime Minister Harper. Listen, no matter how much praise I send towards Prime Minister Harper, it is less. And this is me saying this with full responsibility. If Pierre ends up being even 30% of Prime Minister Harper, it's an achievement. Because that's how good Prime Minister Harper was. Listen, he had a policy, I will not go to any extremist religious place. It doesn't matter which religion they belong to. And he followed that policy to the T. He lived that principle. Prime Minister Harper had these things under control. It all goes haywire. Even in Justin's first term, he was not that bad. Everything goes haywire in that trip to India in 2018.
Yep.
I'm talking about the recent one. I'm talking about the 2018 one.
Oh, yeah.
And it's after that,
I think Justin just did not have the numbers. And then under Jagmeet, he had to cut deal after deal after deal. And these guys had a free run. And it has come to a point where, I feel so terrible for the innocent Canadian Sikh. What has he got to do with any of this? Today, you have graffitis written outside Mississauga calling Indians rats. We have absolute rubbish being peddled. Just today, I saw this news in Brampton of, a race-based attack. Like these things, eventually these things have real life consequences for our community. And we were like begging the Canadian political class, please don't do this mass immigration thing. You're going to regret it, because we could see these things. Like, who were the people who exposed the flaws in the primaries? People, Canadians of Indian origin. All these scams, we exposed it. The Khalistanis beat us up. They don't beat white people up. They beat us up.
Mhm.
They attack us. And we still did it because, these people cared for the society. Like, imagine who would have known about this immigration fraud had it not been for Darshan Maharaja, screaming and shouting out of his lungs. Nobody would have known about it. It was Darshan. Like, Sangeeta Iyer made a freaking documentary on immigration. Isn't she a Canadian? She cared. And Sangeeta, every time Sangeeta and I meet, and Sangeeta is like, where have these people come from?
Yeah.
And it hurts us. It's not like we don't care about these issues in Canada, but and believe me when I say this, even the Conservatives don't listen. Nobody listens. But
Thank
Carney, to your question, has actually, basically, Carney did not need their money. I'm being straight up honest with you. Carney had his own money. He didn't care. And he was like, I don't need you guys. I'm going to do my own thing. He basically could not be bought over. The problem is most of the ones before them were bought over. I'm just being straight up. And bought over as in not in money, just there are multiple ways. The Khalistanis are very good at, getting 100, 200. Like, look at what's happening with the Conservative Party and John Rustad in British Columbia. You know what has happened there. Everybody knows what has happened there. Suddenly, these people of Indian origin end up in every primary, everywhere.
Yeah.
And imagine, dude, I told you everything 1 year ago on your podcast.
Yeah.
I had told you every single thing with the minutest detail, and everything I predicted happened.
I do have a question though for you, because this is a theory. I don't even so much theory. I'm pretty well clear of it, but I want to make sure I wasn't speaking out of turn. But when it comes to Jagmeet Singh being, having his connections to the Khalistani movement, do you think that he also had it in mind that he really wanted to screw over Hindus when he was cutting deals with Trudeau?
I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know Jagmeet that well. Listen, I know he's a true believer. He's a Khalistani. But I don't know if Jagmeet is a Hindu hater. I will never lie. Straight up. I'm telling you, straight up. I don't know if Jagmeet is a Hindu hater. But Jagmeet is definitely radicalized and is a Khalistani. Now, the problem with Jagmeet and many others is, right, listen, the trauma of 84 is real. I am a Punjabi. I can tell you that some bad things happened in India. But bad things happened to Punjabis, Sikh, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, atheists, everyone. Punjab suffered. So, and the Khalistani propaganda is so off the hook over here. And they just took over the Gurdwaras, the Sikh temples. And that's where the problems start, when your kids who are, the level of radicalization is more in second generation Canadian Sikhs, not in the ones who are coming from India. In fact, the only reason this problem was going on being diluted is because a fresh batch of non-radicalized Sikh Indians would come to Canada. And basically they would come in and they would always go around with these second generation radicals. It's like, are you guys nuts? Like, nothing like this happens in India. That's the difference. And that's what led to the normalization. But listen, you open the gates and you have like freaking 3 million people coming in 3 years or 3.5 years. What do you think is going to happen? And the irony is, now I wanted to know your view on this. I don't know what's happening down where you are, but in Ontario, our real estate market has crashed. It has destroyed itself, and it's going down even more. Like, I try to follow Stephen Punwasi, I think the dude from Better Dwelling. He does a lot of real estate data, long-term predictions too. And from what I understand, Toronto was a bubble, but basically that bubble was sustained because of this, giant swath of humans that had come. But now that they're gone, like I know now when you put up a house for rent, there are barely any applications coming up. And it's a very funny thing. Like the Darshan told me recently, he's like, oh, I went to Brampton and I saw a white woman at the cash counter. I started laughing. I was like, I've seen a white person in a cash counter in Brampton after ages. I was like, I'm just sharing a private conversation that Darshan had with me. But, these things are there. But my biggest worry is like, how much of an inflationary pressure are we going to create? Because eventually, like, how much of this immigration scam was basically running and propping up the economy?
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the main reasons it was happening in the first place. I do believe that there is definitely nefarious reasons beyond that as well. I think the World Economic Forum does have a point to play in this. However, I go back to what I said at the beginning of the podcast is headline chasing. And they knew that things were getting bad, so they just decided to just open the floodgates and just bring everyone in. We'll fix all the issues with employment, this, that, the other. We'll make sure we prop up the housing market because that is our number one export these days because we can't offer anything else, apparently. And so if that goes under, our country goes under. So I think that was a big play all along. And now we're seeing all these problems we're currently witnessing. And not going to lie, like even the pressure that the Conservatives have been putting on the temporary foreign workers program, like I'm starting to see real results from that even here locally. I've walked into numerous stores. I'm seeing Canadians being trained on the job now. Like it's like I'm like, oh wow, a lot of these organizations and corporations were scared off by what the Conservatives are bringing forward, and now the Liberals are now having to crack down on it. So the whole thing is very fascinating to watch.
Yeah, I just hope that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because at the end of the day, we need some level of immigration into Canada. I'm not saying it should be 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, but some level of targeted immigration is needed in Canada. And I think policy making is a very fine tooth comb, right? We have to be very careful about what we do over here, and we don't, destroy. Basically, the entire education industry is destroyed in Ontario.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you saw Conestoga, basically.
Yeah.
Crash. Done. So
it's rough over there right now, isn't it? Yeah, I agree with you. I do think there needs to be a full reset though on our immigration system to get re-geared and reset essentially. But I agree that there has to be a point where once that reset happens, we figure things out. I mean, it's just typical. You have to have some type of targeted immigration to fill in specialized jobs in your country, which is how immigration was supposed to work before they decided to screw everyone over. So, yeah.
It used to happen the same way, right? It used to happen all the time. That's how we had our immigration in Canada. But I don't know, Trudeau just went crazy with this whole thing. And look, the biggest price, if anybody is paying for that, is actually the Canadians of Indian origin. They are paying the price for it in real terms. And boy, like every mention of mine, it's just, I know 90% of it is bots, but 10% are real. And I'm like, where are these people coming from? Like, where is this? Like, I don't feel any racism in real life, but yeah, I would be lying that if I don't feel racism online, I would lie if I'm not. Like, it's insane. The kind, every single time you say something, the comments are it's just absolute carnage. But before we wrap up, where do you, like, what is your prediction? Do you think Carney completes his term? What do you see happening?
I stick to my prediction when he won the election. I give him 12 to 18 months and we're going back to the polls, whether we like it or not. We are already hearing reports that Elections Canada is already making calls to rental spaces around the country, getting ready for something. It seems like Elections Canada is preparing for this November 4th budget and not expecting it to pass, which would send us back to the polls. So I think that's a little early for my prediction. I thought we'd at least get a year before we have to start going back to voting. But he's definitely not lasting a full term. That's partially why I think he's also trying to play it a little coy right now, is because he's trying to win over as many people as possible so that he can just call an election, get a majority, and actually do the things he wants to do. I think that's what we're seeing is the long play for him right now. The problem is it's backfiring because people thought we were expecting a deal by July 21st with Trump. Then it moved to August. Then it was, we didn't hear anything. Then he showed up at the White House and was all giggly with Trump, and his voting base, the people who voted him in, whether you agree with the tactics or not, they thought they were going to get a mean guy who's going to go after Trump, and they didn't get that. And now they're getting frustrated. And now this budget is going to be north of $100 billion when this gets announced, from as what the reports are coming out as. It's going to get ugly really quickly, and he's not winning over anybody. So I don't know where this goes. I think that's why Poilievre and the Conservatives have to play it very smart, because we could be going to the polls sooner than I even thought we would.
Yeah, because do people realize it's because of the Canadian agreement with America that 85% of the items are not under the tariff barrier, but that agreement is up for discussion in 2026.
Yep.
So what if that agreement goes out of the window? So this economy tanks, basically.
Oh man, I would be lying to you if I didn't think that actually scares me. If Carney's going to be the one having that conversation with Trump, because if he can't get this deal done, which is small potatoes in comparison to CUSMA or USMCA, we're in for it, man. We are in for it, and we're going to get absolutely cooked.
Yeah, and that's what scares me. I don't know what Trump expects from Carney. What does he expect? Maybe that's the last question before we wrap up. Like, what are we supposed to do in Canada?
What are we supposed to do? Well, there's a lot. There's a systemic issue when it comes to our media apparatus and how they continue to placate for the Liberal Party, so that you don't have any real true stories coming out about this individual, his prime minister, his strengths and his weaknesses. The only reason why things got so bad for Trudeau at the end of his tenure is because even the media was like, oh man, we can't keep covering for him. And so they started reporting honestly about him in his last 6 to 8 months. And then boom, it really blew up in his face. They are not doing that with Carney. If they were to actually report Carney accurately, people would start realizing what's happening. So that's the first fight that needs to happen at the moment, is trying to beat that media apparatus. But it's just trying to get that word out of like, what have we seen? What is going on? And not also trying your best to doing it from a tone of that you don't want to just get Carney. Just talk logistically, like, hey, what has actually gotten better? What has happened? We got a security deal with Rearm Europe in June. That's the only thing that's been signed. That's it. No trade deals. India is having a hard time signing with us right now. Like, and then China wants to beat up on us in canola. US is beating up on us. We'll see what happens with India. Like, things are tough right now.
I'm actually positive on the India trade deal. I hope, the one thing, this is my criticism of the Conservatives. Yep. Why are they not pushing Carney on signing trade deal with India? There is no pressure. He should be pushing him. Carney is I think is visiting India in February for an AI summit. And I think that's why Anita had come right now with Maninder, the trade minister. And they basically are laying the groundwork. And they're going to start negotiations right now. We need to sign that trade deal with India ASAP, because we can actually, because India is the fastest growing economy in the world, no matter what people want to say. Stats don't lie. And we need to get an entry, because listen, at the end of the day, Canada has the biggest advantage over most countries in the world, is that Canada has an Indian diaspora that is very well connected in India. And that's our leverage, and we should use that.
And I agree with you. I think the one thing I don't want people to ever get confused with me is that, I'm critical of the governing party because I love my country and I want to see it do well. And so everyone kind of mistakes me as like, oh, you're just a Carney hater, Trudeau hater, whatever, you're a grifter. And I'm like, no, I just love my country. And quite frankly, I'll be on the record saying this. I really hope this deal goes through with India. I think it would be really good for us. I don't care who the one is negotiating it. I just want a good deal that's we're going to get the maximum amount of money out of it, maximum amount of value out of it. And I hope it's a good deal for both countries. So that's all I want, man. I just want to see my country benefit.
Yeah. Hey, man, as always, it was an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much for tuning in. I know you have to go, so I'll close up while you exit. But thanks as always. And it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I wish you nothing but happiness, brother.
Dude, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. I've enjoyed chatting with you. We always have some good times. And let's go, Jays, go, baby. Here we go.
Yeah, go Jays, go. Take care,
All right.
brother.
All right, brother. Stay strong.
Take care. Take care. All right, guys, we'll wrap up. But before we wrap up, I once again want to remind everyone all the social media details of Josh are there in the description of the podcast. So go subscribe to the Elevate podcast if you guys have not. I think Josh also has a buy me a coffee. So if you want to support him over there. Also, to my Canadian listeners, guys, 1st of November, we have the Hindu Heritage Festival. So if you have not registered till now, please register. It's going to be in the afternoon. So after 2 p.m., 3 p.m. So this is the QR code that you see on the screen. That's the QR code. So you can, scan the QR code and register if you have not done that till now. And I'm looking forward to meeting all of you. It's open to all. You just have to register and show your ID when you enter, and everything else is there inside. I hope you guys come with your family, because we want it to be with your families. So if you have not registered till now, do register. And always remember, the Cārvāka podcast only survives through monthly donations in the form of memberships on Patreon or on YouTube, or through one-time donations on UPI or Interac Canada. So keep supporting the Cārvāka podcast, and I'll see you guys next time. Until then, take care.